In the future I will. I have a video that, it was actually for another class, but it's all about cheeses and different types of cheese. This is the semi-soft cheese. It's a cheddar. This is American, I don't know where it's from. What state? Yeah, it's just a cheddar. But this is good cheese. It's actually very nice cheese. Wine and cheese, it's a perfect match. It really is. You got the cracker thing going on. You keep the cheese in the refrigerator, keep it cold. If you get cooking students, you realize you should know that when you eat cheese, cheese should be eaten warm. Room temperature at least, not heated and stuff like that. But to cut it, it should be ice cold. It should be very cold. If not, it just gets very, very soft. And we do have a little homework action here. We'll talk about this. What else is to talk about? I'm afraid. No, yeah. While this is cooling up. I wanted some of this. I got 2 bottles of it, but it's really fancy packaging. Because I'm really curious. This is not wine. It looks like it. Childproof. Oh. Madame, you read the label. What is it? Varietal. Remember the 4, what are the 4 B? Oh, let's talk about, we want to talk about mid-test? Let's talk about mid-test. Swing this over this way. Okay. What are the 4 B's?
Year.
Vintage, which is the year. The vineyard, where it's grown. Varietal. And vintner. Who made it? Right? So I gave her, I showed her the bottle and I asked her, what's the varietal? Cabernet Sauvignon. What is Cabernet Sauvignon? What is it? Besides what's in this bottle, what is it? It's a varietal of Vinus vinifera. Vinus vinifera is the grapes used for making wine. Okay? But this is an interesting one because this is a non-alcoholic Cabernet Sauvignon. It was really grape juice, but it's made from that grape. So as homework, I want you to figure out how much alcohol I need to add to make this 12%. Understand? So we'll do another tasting. We got a lot of tasting going on. But we're going to taste Cabernet Sauvignon without alcohol, and I'll get some vodka and add alcohol, add that to that, and see if we get a Cabernet Sauvignon stock. So this is 0% alcohol. How much alcohol per milliliter do I need to add to make this 12%? Now all you guys went to high school, and Koreans are known to be very, very good in math. Yeah. You understand? So you understand the question? Homework, Sukje. How much? This is, this is 75 cc's? Is that cc's? 750. Is that CC? Why is it just C? Is this CC's? How big is this? I'm sorry. Just tell me, how big is this bottle? No, it's 0% alcohol. How big is this bottle? 75 cc? What's C stand for?
Maybe
So it's probably 750 cc, right? So what I want to do is take 700 cc of grape juice, basically grape juice, and add 12% alcohol. And what I'll do, I'll order some vodka. I'll get some vodka, and in class we'll slowly put that on, and I'll get another like Cabernet Sauvignon, and we'll taste test between the two. I'm very curious. I never tried this. I never had this at all, and I think it'd be a very interesting experiment for class for you guys to understand how much alcohol adds taste. Because I bet you this probably just tastes like grape juice. It doesn't taste like wine. It probably just tastes very, very simple. Okay, so any questions on that? I'm recording that. I will post that. If you guys don't understand, you can re-watch the question. 1 A4 paper, once again, just do the math. Yeah, it's very simple math. It's very simple math. Yeah, I'm really glad that I'm very happy that JoJo got a Washington State wine. They're very hard to find. The reason why they're not the big producers, like California wines are very easy to find. Oregon in Korea, Oregon and Washington are hard to find in Korea. They're pretty big producers, but he is great. I'm very happy to do that. We need to do attendance now. I think everybody's here. It's a very simple question. Right? You probably got the answer. I need to get you guys one answer. Check your phones, please. 15. Still missing 2 people. Yep, 19. Everybody happy? Okay. I don't know what the other three are. Well, sometimes they drop or something. What you should do is open up your notebooks to the American wine section. Okay, like I said, I'm not going to go through it line by line. I'm going to just kind of talk key points, basically. I think you need to do that. I don't know if the videos go over key points too, but I just, we'll see how mid-test turns out, I guess. So mid-test is, the 20th, 2 weeks from now. Okay? So this week we have a tasting. Next week, French part 1. Then we have the mid-test. And none of the French will be on the mid-test. I won't put any of the French on it because it's split in half, and that's a little too confusing. The French is a little more complex in there. Germany is really complex, and when we get to Germany, we'll worry about that. But, so then today's the 6th American wine tasting, the 13th French wine lecture. So offline class next week, right? But then the 20th in-class test, mid-test. And basically anything that begins with V, anything that begins with V. What's viticulture? What's viticulture? The art of growing grapes for making wine. Vitis vinifera are the grapes you use for making wine. Vintage, varietal, vineyard, all right? Well, tasting, obviously there'll be tasting questions on there. ESs, anything with numbers on it, right? But by that time, we'll have another tasting, and you should have that down. Some of the terminologies, like what is nose in wine tasting? What is nose? In wine tasting, what does nose mean? We talked about it in our first tasting. It's smell, aroma. But that's the term they use. And most of you guys are Western cooking majors, right? So if the chef says mirepoix, you know what it means. Carrot, celery, and onions. If the wine taster says nose, you know what that means. It means the aroma. What's the difference between an aroma and a bouquet? This we talked in class. Aroma is one smell. Bouquet is all the smells together, like a bouquet of flowers. It's pretty simple stuff. It's not hard. But those are wine tasting terminologies. That's what wine tasters, that's the words they use. As like with Western cooking, you know, we say mirepoix. We're not going to say, oh, I need carrot, celery, onions. So give me the mirepoix. It's the professional term. So I want you guys to understand that at least. Okay, moving on. Let's see what we got here. The missing students, like I said, I don't know if they're going to be here or not. This is for you guys, the ones that are missing class. Okay. Key point here, AVAs. What is AVA? It's the body that controls winemaking in America. I don't know if Korea really has I guess it would be a KVA. That would be an interesting question. I wonder. There must be a KVA. I bet it's a hockey KVA too. Look at your neighbor. Just out of curiosity. Because Korea probably has a governing body for alcohol. This is the American one. I don't know if you can see that. You know, this is actually a very powerful government branch, and they control all the alcohol on it. The sizes are amazing. This is not key point. This is not like test. A lot of it's not test material. Trust me, it's really not. it's not a sommelier class. It's really wine appreciation class. But to give you just the idea of the size differences that come on, in America, the AVAs can be very huge, almost 3 states to very small. Let's see, unlike European, okay, this is at least a fairly, not, once again, not test material. I'm never going to ask you these percentages. But as you should know, I mean, it's good to know that the grapes used to make the wine must have been grown at 85%. And you'll see the numbers, the AVAs in all the countries, they're around 85, well, yes, let's go, 75 to 85% about the grapes grown in that area, be it in the bottle or labeled made in Bulgaria, made in Germany. Usually it's around 85 to 90. California is 100%. Grapes must be grown, bottled, and produced in California to be a California wine. Those European wines there, I should ask whose they are because they're sitting there pretty long. Because those say product of Europe. How many countries are in Europe? How many countries are in the EU? I'm not sure, but I think about 25 to 27 countries. So that bottle of wine could be grapes from 27 countries, not districts or regions, but 27 countries. It would be a really huge variety. I'm very curious about it. I've never seen wine like that yet. Let's see. If we have time, the last wine we really talk about Italian wines, because Italian wines aren't that good anymore. They're really pretty poor, and they're getting better. They had a problem, but what it is, the AVA style is very much like the Italian style of how they govern things. In Germany, it's very strict down to basically the bot is on the label. France a little more open. But America, you'll see it. New World wines are generally pretty loose about AVAs. This is true almost in all countries. To be a region, and I'm sure in Korea too, like, well, the city of Seoul is basically the Han River and Bukhansan Mountain. You know, that's a geographical region. The mountain and the river basically makes what considered the modern city of Seoul. Most AVAs are broken up that way by either like a river, mountain, oceans. There's a lot of those things. And around the world it's mostly the same that way. This is what at the end it shows. So South Korea is basically the size of Illinois. This is basically almost the same size as of South Korea. So you can see the Ohio River Valley AVA is absolutely huge. But they don't really produce really quality wines. They were settled by a lot of German people. They make some good German style wines. I was telling you about from New York. I'm down here in Long Island, New York. New York City's here. This whole area is settled by German and Dutch. German and Dutch, they speak the same language. So this is where the first wineries in America were really put up by the Dutch. This New York area here, there's lakes here, and this is excellent German wines. Really nice ice wines and things like that. I lived in Dallas, Texas for a while. Texas wines are okay. They're extremely similar to Australian wines. And we'll taste some Australian wines because they're much lighter. Texas and Australia, basically the same climate, hot summers, little rainfall. So they have very similar wines. These other areas like Colorado, they're not really known for their wines. I mean, even in America, the wine that's produced in that area is usually for that area. You wouldn't get a Tennessee wine in a California restaurant. But when we talk about California growing, their AVAs, look at the size of that, the Oregon. And Washington too, right here, there's a big mountain range. It's really interesting because I drove this way. And you drive through this area here, and it's flat and dry. Desert-like, really, almost desert-like. Then you go over these mountains, and you come down, and it's like a jungle. It's all green, it's rainy, it's wet here all the time. And that's why, once again, the grape grows quite well there along this coast. But really interested in Washington State. So that's why I'm kind of excited that we do have a Washington State wine. I haven't researched which side it's on. The mountains are called the Cascades. But that should be actually interesting. The Midwest, nothing goes on here. But a lot of corn, a lot of Oxusu and things like that. A lot of things are grown there. Wine just never took off there. These are the big players, really. The North Coast and Central Valley. But the North Coast, California wines are always the best. That's Napa and Sonoma. That's where those two areas are. Canaris is there too. Once again, I lived in San Francisco, and then I moved up to San Rafael. So the wine countries were just an hour and a half away, an hour. So I've spent a lot of time in the wine areas up there. And the whole area in this fall smells like wine because it's wine production. Chunsa Valley, if you buy almonds or walnuts in Korea, that's where they're from. There's huge production there. California, very interesting state. These are their AVAs. Oh, okay. This is a good point too. Because if you go to Costco, you can go and you can pick up a Burgundy wine at Costco. But where's Burgundy? What's Burgundy? Who's Burgundy? Who's been in my French cooking class too? The second one. Beef Bourguignon. Beef Burgundy. Burgundy is a region of France. Bourguignon is the French word, but the American word. English is Burgundy. That's a region in France. And in California, they make an American style Burgundy. But in Europe, they say you can't sell that. That's a region. But it's a style of wine. Once again, I grew up, when I talk about champagnes, when I talk about sparkling wines, I accidentally, and I keep doing this, I keep calling them champagnes. Because to me, as an American growing up, any sparkling wine is a champagne. But in EU law, it's not. And that's called semi-generic wines. Europe protects them very, very much. These are all, once again, because Costco's in America, you can go and see all these wines in American style wine. But in Europe, they're not like that. There has to be a region. They have to come from that area. They're all names. Okay. They're trying to get rid of it in America, and I can understand. In the US, at least 95 grapes from a particular vintage. So the birthday on there, 95% of those grapes have to be in there, and that's a general law. Alcohol based on volume. For bottling a varietal, then what's a varietal? Another V word. Once again, anything said underlined in class, cooking class or here, what is a varietal? Give me an example. Cabernet Sauvignon, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Riesling. The list is endless, but those are varietals. So in an American wine, if it wants to say Cabernet Sauvignon, it has to be at least 75%. Oregon's very unique with the 90%. But once again, this is not really test material, but I think you guys should understand. If you pick up a bottle, because we're going to taste the Cabernet Sauvignon today. And the Chardonnay, well, I don't know what we're going to do with Chardonnay. We have too much wine. We have too much wine. Cabernet Sauvignon. So this is California Cabernet Sauvignon. So it must be at least 75% Cabernet Sauvignon. What else is in there? Maybe 10% Zinfandel and maybe some Pinot Noir. It probably even might even say the Korean labels. You guys, you should have this on the video. Yeah, I'm going to go through this really quick. If you didn't catch it, go back to the videos. What I'd like to do is open up your notebook and circle things when I talk about it. You know, I mean, you can write it, go ahead, but I'm not going to be stopping. The Korean label law sometimes might even say the percentage. Yeah, just Cabernet Sauvignon, know the name. And it doesn't, sometimes the label laws will make it. Is this 100, is this 75% Cabernet Sauvignon? Is it 100%? Generally not. They usually blend with something else, but it's not, what they try to do is make the taste the same every year. So they might add more or less of a certain grade. I don't think any varietal is 100% in any country. They always seem to be blended. Now what year is it? What's the vintage? 2016. So it's 2021 now, it's 16. Perfect time for drinking. Name? Robert Mondavi. Important name? Yeah, you know that?
No.
Yes, you do. It was on the video. It's like the next second of the first slide. He is what makes him so important in the wine world. He took wine and made it simple. He worked in his father owned I'll get to it. His father owned a winery, and he made his own winery. And he said, "Oh, I'm not going to call it Burgundy. I'm not going to call it Sauterne. I'm going to call by the grape name. I'm going to put that on there because the people will understand a Merlot or a Cabernet. They understand the different flavors in there. I'm not going to just call it American style Burgundy, Burgundy light, things like that." So Robert Mondavi, that's a name to know. He changed the whole wine culture. Once again, with percentages. Text requires 85%. California does require 100% grapes grown in that state to have that. We're going to put this bad boy back. That's a good wine, by the way. It's one of California's best. This is an American-only thing. Sulfites, we're not getting into that particular. Sulfites naturally occur inside wines. Some people have allergies to it. It's not the alcohol, like you guys turn red. Some of you guys turn red from the alcohol. Sulfites is a different problem, like a clogged nose and things like that. But it's natural in wine, and sometimes it's added to wines because it's preservative, it keeps it fresh longer. But only American wines. It's like a cigarette pack. You know, it says, "Oh, Tom Bay will kill you." Basically, it says sulfites inside. Be careful. Okay, that was on the American wines in general. Let's get to the California wines. Oh. I need to make a video on, I'm going to make a video on Oregon and Washington, since we have a Washington wine. Generally we don't get it, but because I just realized American wines really doesn't talk that much about those two states. And they're good wines. I kind of like them. Yes, Mr. Mondavi. This was on the video, right? And that looks a little more familiar, right? 88% of the wines in America are produced in California. You saw all those AVAs all over the place. But they don't really produce like what California produces. That's for sure. But Mr. Mondavi left his family winery, and Krug wineries they make actually good sparkling wines. They make some of the better non-champagne sparkling wines. He started an operation, and he dedicated only making premium wines. He didn't make wines in big bottles or anything. A lot of American, who's been to Costco? Has anybody been to Costco? Costco. Have you been to Costco? I suggest all you guys have any interest, go there, look at their wine selection, and you're gonna see Gallo. You'll see this wine there in 4-liter bottles. You know, that was American wine production when I was a kid. American wines were just big bottles of wine. Mr. Mondavi said, no, we can make premium wines. We can make quality wines. And he's the first one to start putting the name of the grape on there. And Europe's like, oh, American wines. And then this slowly took off, and he was very important. Let's see. Yeah. Variety. Once again, the type of grape. So he's the first to start naming Cabernet, Merlot. They're called jug wines. And Costco still, they have them there. They're 3.75 liters, but they're almost 4 liters of wine. And that was American wine production for the longest time, before Mr. Mondavi said, no, let's make better ones. And now a lot of good American wines. Semi-generic terms. So you go there too, you'll see Burgundy and you see Chablis. These are 2 places in France, but these are American wines. So they cannot be sold in the EU. Korea accepts it. You can buy California champagne and it will say California champagne on it. But once again, you cannot sell that in the EU. And like I say, if you go to Costco, you'll see Burgundy and Chablis on bottles. Not necessarily the big ones too, on smaller ones, because style of wine. Typically, Burgundy wines, Cabernet Sauvignon, 75%, 25% Merlot. In French wines, we get, once I have the Jogio, this is actually working quite well. I asked the Jogio, I said, I need this. I need certain years. And he searches for it. He accidentally bought the Washington wine. Fine. That came out really well. So he's looking now for French wines. And if he gets one from Burgundy, and it's just going to say the region says Burgundy, but you look at it, there's no place that says what kind of grapes on it. Because Burgundy wines are generally Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, 75-25. Maybe there's a little mix of 85-15, that kind of thing. But that's basically a Burgundy wine. And that's how, like if you go to Costco, you pick up a Burgundy, you look at it, it doesn't say Cabernet Sauvignon, it'll say Burgundy style wine. So that's one thing about the generic wines are very important that way. The name doesn't necessarily tell you what it is. And that's what makes him important. He basically puts a recipe on the bottle. Let's see where this is from. This is probably from Napa Valley. Most of his vineyards are in Napa or Sonoma. Got a label over it. This is it just says California, so it could be other AVAs, but the Napa and Sonoma, these are the 2 big players in California wine production. Napa is the smaller one. Sonoma, yeah, look just about down here, just off this map. Sonoma is a bigger one here. There's a mountain range here. That's what makes it 2 different. This is probably the most expensive land in America here. Because a lot of restaurants now, a lot of restaurants are opening up there. Very pretty, place is beautiful. How big is it there? Two hundred and 40 vineyards currently now. But 1960, there's only 25. It gives you an idea how much Robert Mondavi is important, not just in California wine production, but in global wine. Because even now, the French wine we get, even though it comes from Alsace, it might have the varietal on it because people get comfortable with that. They like the varietal. Kind of important, but once again, not test material. You know, but everything is here. And Sonoma's much bigger. And the AVA here, I mean, they're right along this coast. Look at this is a new one. There's Russian River Valley. They produce very nice wines here. Bodega Bay. Remember I showed you the pictures in Germany, my friend? He was working there too. When I was down here, it was really funny. So we used to visit each other there. Then he came to Korea, and he really liked Korea because he lived in Germany for many years, and Germany is very much like America when it comes to food and culture, holidays and things like that. He was very surprised with Korea, how different it was. Sonoma, Petaluma is a big city, but this whole area is just all... And this produces 88% of the wine sold in America. These two areas, not just these two areas, but most of these two areas. That's Pinot Noir or Zinfandel, I'm not sure. But they're purple-black, really, really dark. Which once again, I need to ask you to get a Zinfandel for you guys. Because you like that. Sonoma. You can see it's big business. It's big business. You know, you drive through these areas and they're all wine tasting, and it's really, if people go to America, a lot of times they don't really think about going, they might go to San Francisco. Everybody goes to Vegas, Grand Canyon. But if you go to San Francisco, you just, an hour north of San Francisco is the wine area. And it will change your whole perception about wines. You know, once again, I grew up drinking wines, but when I moved to California, it really changed my ideas about tasting and what is good wine and what's not. Let's see, okay, once again, reserve. Most New World wines, the Chilean wine we taste was Reserva. It doesn't really mean anything. In Europe, all these names, if they have any kind of names like that, actually have a legal definition. They actually mean something. But usually in New World wines, any kind of name like that, nothing. Gold medal winner, that kind of stuff, doesn't really matter. There's no legal definition of barrel select, special, private, reserve. It really doesn't, they can put anything they want on there. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Now with premium wines like Mondavi and stuff like that, it can mean something. But not by law, by his standard. Okay. California is a beautiful state, I miss that. San Francisco and Tucson are very much the same way. Big city on the ocean, has the same smells, and you know, once again, you can probably grow grapes here. Any questions on American and particular California wines? Why does California produce so much wine? Besides the climate, the terroir, what do you think? It's in the same California. California is a Spanish word. Spain went there. Let's go, well, we'll just use this map. Sorry, they came up from Mexico, San Diego, built a church, planted vineyards. Moved up to Petaluma, built a church. Moved up here, built a church, planted vineyards. They did it all the way up to just past Sacramento, just up to Sacramento's the capital, by the way. Just out up to this area. And is where Spain stopped. But that's where the big wine productions went. Mexico itself, I've had some really nice Mexican wines, and I had some really crappy Mexican wines. They like, church wines are sweet by nature, they generally are. So once again, if you add grape juice, add some sugar, put some alcohol in, that's what we're gonna try. We're not gonna add sugar, but we're gonna be adding alcohol to this. And then we're gonna taste it against a real bottled, barrel fermented wine, as opposed to basically a manufactured wine. Now, I want to see. This was, I got another, I think it's Monochunga. Monochunga, excuse me. 2.5. For this, that can get you a pretty good bottle of wine anywhere. That gives you a good bottle of wine. So I'm very curious about that. So what we'll do, once again, your homework, you give me the percentages. I'll ask you a bottle of vodka. What's vodka? What is vodka? Vodka. Vodka. How do you say vodka in Korean? Because of the V. Vodka sounds like Russian. Russian name yourself. Vodka. Maybe I'll throw, I do have a video about basic alcohols. Once again, this is not about that class, but when we talk about port wines usually have brandy put into it. What's brandy? What is brandy made from? This will be a good video. Brandy's made from wine. What's whiskey made from? Yangju. What's that made from? Grains, barley. In general, generally barley. So you make beer and make whiskey is almost the same thing. But brandy itself is made from grape wines. So there is a big difference. A lot of people know brandy, but there is a big difference in between the two, that's for sure. Yeah, that's something I think we should go over. Even though it's not part of that class, you should know that. Okay. Let's set up.